Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. Greetings and salutations, all my people out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the honor and the privilege of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. And welcome to this morning, Wednesday, February 9th, 2022, the 9th day of Black History Month. It's also actually National Pizza Day and also National Chocolate Day. It's really weird that those two things would be on the same day, but I mean, celebrate how you choose to. But also remember that those two things are on the list of foods that don't necessarily agree with the Black community when it comes to our health and well-being. So behave and celebrate accordingly. As always, I want to thank the super producer, Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan, for making sure that we have the tools, materials, and resources to be successful. He does an amazing job, and to be clear, wouldn't really be able to do this without him. So, bruh, I am always grateful. We always got to start off with the people who pay us and make it happen. So first and foremost, as always, thank you to Dr. Tyrone Taborn, whose birthday was yesterday, and the good people over at StemCityUSA.com. You all really do need to jump on and make sure that you all go visit, because guess what? It's not even a secret anymore. But all of the programming from Black USA News is on STEM City USA in the metaverse. We are there. And it's really important that we support organizations who are working to improve the digital literacy and reduce the digital gap for Black folk. Always, if you find yourself in a situation where you are on the wrong side of law enforcement, we're going to talk a little bit about that later today. But if you find yourself on the wrong side of law enforcement, you really do need to give J. Wendell Gordon a call. They call him the warrior lawyer, not just because it rhymes, but because he does. He goes into the communities and the courtrooms and he fights for his clients. If you got a situation, make sure you give him a call. The worst case scenario is that he can refer you to somebody who can help you if he can't. Best case scenario, he can take your case and change your life. There are too many of us that end up in incarcerated settings just because we didn't have good representation. Oh, I didn't do it, so I'm just going to go to the courts. They can't lock me up if I didn't do it. Yeah, they can. They can. And bruh, they will. So make sure you at least talk to somebody before you head into a situation like that. But if you find yourself either on the way to or on the way from supporting or being a person dealing with incarceration or legal issues, you might want to stop by Darker Than Blue Grill. The food is always good, and if it's going to be your last meal on the outside in a while, you might want to do that. Or if you're celebrating not being out in a while, stop by Darker Than Blue. I would say I'm joking, but I'm not. You really do need to stop by Darker Than Blue. It's a really great celebration or a really great memory for if you're not going to be able to enjoy it later. Also, if you come home, and I think I'm just going to continue with this whole incarceration metaphor because it fits today. But when you come home, or after you work with J. Wendell Gordon and you do not have to face incarceration, you can celebrate by getting a bouquet of amazing fruit from Edible Arrangements. Their locations in Govins and Randallstown. We talk about supporting Black businesses. This is another way that you can do that. So make sure that you go and get something from Edible Arrangements. And by the way, if you're going to get something from me, you know what it needs to be. It needs to be pineapple dove with white chocolate candy on top of it. Okay. Hey, and by the way, it's chocolate day. Oh my God. You could really be a lifesaver and get me some white chocolate covered pineapples. And I tell you all the time, the fruit that they are able to pick at Edible Arrangements is amazing consistently. And the only person I'd ever known who could do that was Mama Honolulu. She could go to like a regular grocery store and pick the freshest, nicest fruit. I would ask her how she did it, but she'd say something country and something about plucking something or colors. And I'd be like, so this one. Okay, thank you. But whoever their mama is, they're out there picking really great fruit and making sure that it tastes good. If you find yourself in a civil situation where somebody has wronged you or you are going to get sued, you might want to give a call to Murphy, Falcone, and Murphy. Judge Murphy has been out in the community fighting for Black people my entire adult life. And not just in courts, not just as a judge, but also as an advocate for the disenfranchised and the disinvested. So, again, giving them a call, checking out their website doesn't hurt you. It doesn't cost you anything, but it could change your life and change the trajectory that you're on. So if you find yourself again in a civil situation or you want the government to change its laws, make sure that you give Murphy, Falcone, and Murphy a call. And if you want to change your financial situation, or if you want to take your business or nonprofit organization to the next level, give me a call or go visit me at least or at our website, www.grindinggang.com. We have free memberships. And like I tell you all, I want to make sure that you all have the money when it's time to pay for something. And so I'm giving you a whole bunch of stuff for free. I like to believe that it's pretty philanthropic on my part, but it has a very practical application. I got tired of people, they would give these some other consultants a whole bunch of money up front and not really get the services they need. And then when I get to them, they don't have any money left. So I'm like, hey, just take the beginning stuff up front for free. And let's invest when you're ready to invest. So let's see what else. Oh, and our newest sponsor, I Am Black Wall Street, book by Donnie Glover. He takes a really interesting examination of Black Wall Street, not necessarily from the tragedy that happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or even that it was not the only quote unquote Black Wall Street in America. What he does is he takes an examination of how people got to the Black Wall Streets. What were the motivations? What was the transportation? What were the obstacles and the successes? And in that way, he takes this tragedy of Black Wall Street and identifies a roadmap that we can use to create other Black Wall Streets now. So it's wonderful. I'm grateful that we have the good Donnie Glover as a sponsor. Yesterday. Oh, wait, let's see. Make sure I gotta stay on. So we talked about, yeah. Okay, so yesterday we had our show was with Baltimore City State's Attorney candidate Roya Hanna. We had a really great conversation about how to get engaged in politics and what the role of the state's attorney's office is and what her vision for the future is going to be. So if you didn't get that, if you weren't here for that, make sure you go back and look at the replay. It was a really good conversation, and she has some ideas about the future of Baltimore, and that election is coming up soon. So, hey, what's up, Chap? Chap is signing in on us, in with us today. As you all also know, well, you know what? Let me not even try to tell you about it. Let me tell you about it. I still like that joke from yesterday, so I'm going to keep using it. I think this might be the joke every day. So when I say, like, let me stop talking about it and let me start talking about it.
Hi, my name is William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege of being the host of the BlackUSA.news morning show. BlackUSA.news has partnered with the DM Firm, the Grinding Gang, Be More News, and DM Global Marketing and PR Firm to bring you the Perfect Pitch Planning Program. The program will help business owners develop the skills to compete and present a detailed plan to open or grow a business. During the program, you will learn how to create an entrepreneurial mindset, how to clarify and communicate who your target customer is, how to design your business model to meet your customer's need, and how to create realistic financial projections. The first session will be held on February 19th from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you register by February 10th, you will receive an additional $50 discount. If you use the promo code BlackUSA.news, you will receive an extra 10% off. If you are ready to take your business to the next level and save some money, act now before prices rise. This program is sponsored by the book I Am Black Wall Street by Donnie Glover, with a foreword by the Honorable William Billy Murphy Jr.
Hey, good morning, Shonda. So yeah, by the way, Donnie is really excited and wants to make sure that this opportunity is available for as many people as possible. So we're giving away free tickets. Check in with the shows. Leave a comment if you're interested, or you can hit me up at info@grindinggang.com. Um, and we're going to have more information about how you can get free tickets. There's a link, and I don't have it right now, but you can get some free tickets and get an opportunity to change your life. What's up, Michael? Um, Tomorrow we're going to talk to Nicole Murphy from iBarter Black. It's a really great way for Black businesses to exchange services when cash flow may not be as strong as you want it to be. It goes back to a lot of our traditions about how we develop community and develop business in the first place. And uh, and so we're looking forward to having that conversation. Big shout out to Kamal Hubbard. He is the host of Crypto News on Fridays at 7 p.m. He was checking in this morning with Donnie Glover and really having a conversation about demystifying crypto and what it means when we don't get involved in digital finance early. When you look at the history of a lot of technological growth, hell, right now we're looking at when industries are opening, like in Maryland and nationwide, with the cannabis industry opening. A lot of the money is not being invested in the Black community, but guess where a lot of the stores are, if we're going to talk about it. And so that kind of thing is important. And so let's make sure that as blockchain, NFTs, and the like continue to become a dominant part of our financial structure, that we don't get left behind again, because that's kind of the way they want it to happen. Big shout out to Geraldine Turnage Lewis, whose birthday is today. I met Geraldine in 1989. Wow, that was a long time ago. Met her in 1989. Has been one of my best friends for the intervening bunch of years. And so I just want to say a happy birthday and a big shout. Today we have an opportunity to talk to Dr. Helen Holton. She was going to talk to us about the Black agenda. And Dr. Holton, she refers to herself as a recovering elected official. She's an author, and she's also a thought leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And her thought leadership isn't just based on her academic preparation or her professional engagement. It's because she's literally lived a life at the intersection of race and gender in fields and industries where her race and her gender combined make her quadruply a target. And because, there's an exponent that goes when it comes to Black women, like when they get targeted, it's not just one target. It's like it's coming from a lot of different directions. I mean, look, if we're going to talk about, how we know the rule, we might not keep it 100, but we're going to keep it 85. That is a very real thing that Black women have to deal with. Hey, it's Jennifer. Good morning, Jennifer. And so in addition to that, she has been an elected official in a city that for a long time struggled. And to be quite frank, is still struggling and looking for leadership to try to help us to help navigate and coordinate efforts. But I want to frame the conversation with her in the context of Amir Locke. I'm not sure how many of you, if you all are aware what happened in Minneapolis with Mr. Locke. There was a no-knock warrant. So, if the story starts with a no-knock warrant, it's not going to go well. I'm sorry. If the story starts with a no-knock warrant and a Black person is involved, if we're going to be honest about it, the story's not going to go well. There's a no-knock warrant. This 22-year-old man. I'm sorry, I guess he's a man now because he's a 22-year-old Black man. But if he was a white guy, it was a 22-year-old kid. Well, because, Don Jr. and Eric and Ivanka are kids. Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting show today. Okay, so there's so much about this story that just boggles the mind. So this in possession of a legal gun, sleeping on a couch, 1:00 in the morning. They come in, and I was very grateful to the person who showed the video that I watched, because I get nervous about watching these videos because those images are of me, my son, my cousins, and my brother. And it's really difficult for me to watch them. And I'm grateful to TYT, the Young Turks, because they stopped the video just before the shot was fired. And I'm grateful for that. So just a note, please, if you send me stuff like that, please, edit it out because it hurts. It hurts to watch that. Because that camera could be on me, or I could be watching the video of my son. Like, I can't imagine what these parents go through watching the execution of their children on social media every day. What about their children and things like that? So this is the context that we started. When I was younger, and I was telling Dr. Holton about this, when I was younger, my mother used to say, it's bad enough when you do something wrong, but you will get in more trouble about lying about it than you will about the thing you did. And I thought that was pretty silly because why would I tell the truth to get in trouble? It was it seemed very not practical. But I didn't want to get in trouble. So especially because, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And so discipline looked a little bit different than it does now. So I was like, cool, no lying, or at least none that you will catch me in. 85%. I told y'all, I'm not going to be 100, but 85. But this morning, as I'm watching, good morning, Brandy. As I'm watching the clip, as I'm reviewing the material from the story, I actually got it. Because the loss of this young man's life in a botched police raid, and by the way, they didn't find anybody that they were looking for involved in this homicide. So that person who murdered someone else is still at large. So that's okay. Separate issue. The police chief, the interim chief, to be clear, and the mayor had a press conference in which they talked about how basically it really wasn't the police fault, their officers' fault. They did whatever. But if you look at the video, it's like what you say at a podium and what I see in the video does not match. And they fell on the default when you don't have an argument. Well, I just encourage everyone to watch the video. No, we did. It does not say what you said it said. I don't need to watch it again to know that you're lying. We need to move from just accountability because Nikema Levy Armstrong, the civil rights attorney and former NAACP president in that area, she stood up in the middle of the press conference and said, I will not sit here while you cover this up in front of my eyes. See, what she did was move from accountability because the press was holding her accountable. It's like, no, the interim chief, that is not what happened. That is accountability. Absolutely. But we need to move from accountability to consequence. And see, it's interesting how often that only happens when the person on the other side of the accountability of the consequence has a little more melanin than not. We won't talk about the people who have been found who've committed election fraud, the white guys who've gotten slaps on the wrists, and the mothers, the Black women who have been sentenced to prison. So one of the things that I believe is that one of the reasons that these things happen is because it's by design. This is not an accident. We were talking to Roy and Hannah yesterday about crime in the city, and one of the things I was very clear on is that I don't think that this is a bug in the system. I don't think that this is an error in the system. I think this is the way that it's designed because there's a lot of people making a lot of money on a lot of this. The rest of us need to have an agenda that we come around so that we can leverage our resources so we are no longer the victims of their decisions. And one of the ways that we do that is by having a comprehensive agenda, or at least having focal points. And the person that we're going to have a conversation with today is going to help us understand that and really work through some of these things and maybe get a little empathy because some of these stories aren't ours and we don't have a reference point to understand them. Dr. Helen Holton, the recovering elected official, author, speaker, trainer, and all of those good things. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fabulous, William. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was happy and grateful. I was like, wait, you want to be on my show? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, because I'm local and I've followed your career, I am very familiar with Dr. Helen Holton, former councilman. But for those of our audience members who are watching it on the East Coast or outside of the Baltimore area, I know you do have a national reputation, but they may not have heard about you. So tell them a little bit about you.
You know, I just live and do and breathe as I feel inclined in who I am in this space on this planet Earth. And thank you. Yes, I do live at the intersections of race and gender, but I also live at the intersections of political privilege and power,
Okay.
and how that impacts where we find ourselves in this present moment.
Okay.
So, that being said, I think it is interesting of how things are showing up for us. The whole Amir Locke situation is just, I don't want to say more of the same.
You can say that.
Well, it's more of the same, but what is it born out of? It's really born out of unconscious biases. It's born out of political privilege. It's born out of the history of this nation. If you look at Nicole Jones and 1619 Project, we're just telling the truth. When you look at critical race theory, why is it acceptable to shield and safeguard the opinions or self-esteem of white boys and girls, but it's okay to denigrate Black and brown boys and girls in the shaping of American history? It reminds me of Langston Hughes's poem, I Too Am America.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
Go back to the Black Renaissance, where many of our intellectuals, artists left America.
Yes.
Because there was no justice, there was no equity, there was no fair play going on. And the thing about race, there are many biases that people hold in life. Race is one of those that you can't hide. Gender is one of those you can't hide. So it makes them easy targets. But what happened to Amir Locke? I saw that video when they first released it. I'm a little news junkie. So my white noise when I'm working is MSNBC, CNN, in the background. And I was just appalled. Number one, different from the no-knock warrant where they busted down the door of Breonna Taylor. This one was, they had a key.
Yes.
Open the door. And it used to be when the police confronted and they saw a weapon, they would say, stop, halt, put the gun down before they just opened fire. Here, they literally saw someone under a blanket on the sofa. They saw the gun. They didn't even know
TV lights, by the way. TV lights. That could have easily been a remote control. It was dark in there.
Yeah. The point being.
Yeah, sorry.
Our nation today is so polarized around race, and the misinformation that's being spread throughout the land is, I would say that the past president really incited the divisiveness that we're living in by making it okay for those who have hatred, bigotry, and biases against Black people to just come out and be the vigilantes.
Absolutely. Ahmaud Arbery.
Right. Ahmaud Arbery. I mean, the list goes on and on.
It is a list I am so.
It's like modern day lynching.
Not like
guns. They do it with guns, and it's quick, and you don't have hundreds of people watching you do it, except for
yes, you do.
Chauvin, who did it in broad daylight.
Oh, no. You do have hundreds of people watching you. It's just now you get them as likes on Facebook. Now you get them as comments.
They're watching after the fact.
Right.
From lynching, where people gathered, it was like the event of the town to let's go out and watch how they're going to.
Right. But I still, for me, the similarity to lynching is still a pretty close, because a lot of those people, the lynching act, the hanging act was the finality. They had already, had done things to people by the time that they got them there. And actually, as you bring that up, that leads me to something that someone else said about, you brought up the 1619 Project and the education of race and how the priority is making white people feel okay about what happened. That we prioritize their feelings over facts all the time. It is like, and I get it, because, through my trauma and mental health challenges, I realized that that was a lie, that what I wanted. I didn't understand why people just didn't do what I wanted. If you just do what I wanted, we'll all be happy because I'll be happy and I'll do whatever to make you happy to get what I want. It was like, oh no, sir, that's toxic. That's not the way humans work. But like, I learned that from the power dynamics I saw around me, especially when I was in white spaces. Like, if you make the person in charge happy, you can get what you want.
Well, I'm going to go a little deeper than that.
Okay.
None of us is born to hate. Hatred is something
Okay.
that we learn, that
Okay.
we're taught. And it begins in our primary sphere of influence, which
Yes.
begins in the home with our family.
Yeah.
So if a family teaches their children to love one another, they're less likely to go out in the world and say, oh, I should harm someone that looks different than me. But if we're taught, think about, I am convinced more than ever that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated not because of his stance on civil rights, but on his mobilizing to get poor people to understand how they're victimized in this world. And the notion that I might be white, but I might be poor, but I ain't Black. That created that rift. And let's look at the bigger issue. What Dr. King was challenging was the most dominant race in this nation, which is green. It was interfering with the economic disparities that we were under. And it's like, oh no, we can't have him be in that place because he wants us to. When I think about the fact, and just think about that, this was in the 50s. Today, when I hear that in the past 2 years, billionaires have profited by trillions of dollars in a pandemic, where you have people who have no place to sleep, who've been displaced from jobs because of shutdown, who are living with food insecurity.
Yes.
But
that's my point.
A bridge built in the 1500s to move a sailboat into open waters. Really?
But that is one of the points that we make here regularly. It is that by race, the inequality in race and gender are all to promote green. It is that because before it was about how much land you own. Before it was about what nationality were you. It was all of these things to try to keep people separate.
So let's go back to land ownership. When the first immigrants to America decided they needed more land to go west.
Yes.
Well, they gave land to poor white people.
Yes.
They gave nothing to poor Black people.
Yes, they did.
So
they gave poor Black people to poor white people.
Say that again.
They gave poor Black people to poor rich white people.
Well, I'm saying this.
No, I know what you were saying. I'm sorry, I was going for the quick dad point.
I mean, the point is, and it brings me back to not only Black Wall Street, but Rosewood, Rosewood in Florida,
Seneca Valley, yes.
So there are these. Any place you have seen Black people saying, "Okay, we don't have to be a part of your system. We'll create our own," and then outsiders looking. Well, we don't want you to have that.
Well, because
what makes you think you can have a part of that wealth or keep your wealth away from me?
And what I realize is the more that I have talked to people about what the historical relationship with Black people in America is, what I realize is that it mirrors a domestic violence victim, particularly one who is economically reliant on their abuser. It is, I want you to do well, but not well enough to make me uncomfortable. I want us to pretend that we have a great life, even though I abuse you in the background. And what we end up having is we respond, like you mentioned before, us being reactive. We're being reactive to the abuse because that's the way we've been trained our entire relationship with this country.
I'm going to say this.
Yes.
There have been opportunities and legislation to create our ability to vote, our ability to weigh in with opinion. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, we lost the opportunity that afforded us to participate by not participating. So here's the thing. All the efforts we made to restore voting rights, to formerly incarcerated citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And now all these voter suppression laws.
Yes.
A Black woman, I can't remember what state, who did her time, got notification that yes, she could register to vote, got sentenced to 6 years in prison. Yet white people who
Yes.
knowingly cast mail-in ballots for dead people got nothing.
Slaps on the wrist.
They got honorable mention. Oh yeah,
but that therein lies the challenge of the request for Black people to get involved.
Yes, and I'm going to say this. We started this before the show.
Oh yeah, right.
We've got to stop being reactive to the stimuli that cause these issues to come to the forefront of our mind and learn to be more proactive.
Yes.
It's great that people in Minneapolis are protesting now, but they should have never stopped the protest and the issues.
But I don't think I think that again puts the responsibility on the abused. It is you are right.
The abuser is never going to take responsibility. It is the abused that must rise up. You talk about
understand, but what I'm suggesting is that we need, because the abuser will not do it, just like in a regular domestic violence situation, there needs to be coordinated activity and impressed on the abuser, the incentive of abuse, the threat of the consequence, not just the accountability. Oh, I'm going to call the police, but you will lose your freedom. The fact that Donald Trump when we voted we voted for the Democrats to come to take power in Washington. Yeah. So presumably, we have the Democrats have the executive and the legislative, not the judicial, but if you can handle the executive and legislative, you don't really need the judicial in America that often. So you have this situation where they have everything to pass a progressive agenda that they told us they were going to do, and they still can't do it. So this comes, again, the frustration of activity, because I know a lot of people during that last election who put work in. And so now they're like, so we did all of this and we still you can't pass another bill after all the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hours I spent in line. You can't pass a bill that says somebody can bring me a glass of damn water. And so why should I do that all over again? And I think that's the frustration we feel a lot of times.
We may feel the frustration, but our frustrations aren't going to change the present reality. It's our actions. Our frustrations, the things that we don't agree with, aren't going to change what we're facing.
Right.
It takes us to be vigilant. What is it? The word of God says, don't grow weary in well-doing. And after a while, we think, well, it's enough already. It hasn't changed. I'm out. See ya. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. That's what they count.
They never stop. The opponent never stops. We're in midterm elections. Historically, we don't show up for midterm elections.
No, we don't.
That's the problem. Just because a president isn't at the top of the ticket doesn't mean we should not show up.
Well, we're our local, again, I remember when you were in the elected official, you were out in the community. People knew who you were. But let's talk about how some of these districts have been gerrymandered to the point where I look at Kwesi.
So let's look at Alabama. Wait. Oh, okay. Let's look at Alabama. That a lower court said, Alabama, you have to redraw your districting maps because 25% of your population are predominantly Black jurisdictions, and there's only one congressional seat for the whole state of Alabama. And then the Supreme Court came and said, oh no, we're doing that on, and we'll hear it somewhere down the road. I assure you it'll be after midterm elections.
Absolutely.
After these new maps have gone into play. And that's another 10 years before there's an opportunity to change that. So I'm going back to the place of we have to be proactive and less reactive. We can't wait until the Amir Locke's lives are lost on a whim.
But the problem is that, and for me, one of the challenges is that the system is designed to ensure that doesn't happen. I spend so much, me as kind of the representative person, reasonable person we're talking about, spend so much time having to work, having to try to figure out bills, managing my spiritual, emotional, physical well-being in a world that's trying to harm all of those. If I have children, that's a whole thing, depending on how my relationships are and what type of things, and depending on what my family and medical situations are. And by the way, make sure that you stay up on the latest and greatest legislation in Alabama or hell in your city.
Well,
Because
all politics are local. So
absolutely,
it really
absolutely
begins where we live.
Yes.
And
but how do I do that?
Proactive. So I want you to do, I have a challenge for you.
Yeah.
And you get back to me and let me know what your results yielded.
Okay.
For every new person that you meet,
Uh-huh.
ask them, do you know who your local representatives are? Your state representatives? Your federal representatives?
Yes.
Keep a tally.
And I've done that before.
No, if you don't know who's responsible for hearing and representing your interests and the things that you are most concerned about,
yes,
what are you going to do? Throw it in the wind and hope something?
I'm sorry, that is what we are doing. That's my thing. So I know I agree with you that there needs to be more engagement and activity. So I'm like, okay, I agree to that. So let's talk about like how do we integrate. Aside from listening to the wonderful coverage on BlackUSA.news,
Of course,
and hanging out with Dr. Helen Holton.
This is where it begins. This is where it begins.
Okay.
What is missing from public education these days?
Civics.
We don't teach young people.
Oh yeah, no,
the significance and importance of civics.
You know the three branches of government. When I've asked people, I've heard this: the three branches of government are the president, the Congress, and the Senate. People who vote.
Wait. At the federal level.
No. I'm saying the Congress and the Senate. You're right, but they don't even understand the judiciary is a whole other branch.
Well, Congress.
No, I'm agreeing with you about the ignorance of people to civics. So even when you ask them very fundamental questions, they don't know.
Well, and they don't know because no one's taught them.
Absolutely.
Where I remember in elementary school, in social studies, I learned about the different branches of government and how they operated and why states only had 2 senators, but they had more members of Congress based upon the population of their state.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm going to tell you, truth be told, if you look at Maryland's congressional map.
Oh, God.
I mean, that 6th district or
the 7th.
No, not the 7th. I think it's John Sarbanes' district. How?
Yes.
I mean,
I used to be in that district. I didn't move.
And I
didn't move. I've been at the same place for like 15 years, and I've had 3 different people elected. Granted, one of them was Elijah Cummings, and I absolutely miss him. But like, I have not moved. But everybody around me is not is crazy. To your point.
At the end of the day, though, this goes back to when it's election time and people say who you're going to vote for. And I'm an advocate of campaign finance reform.
Yeah.
Because if you raise a lot of money and go to the airwaves and radio and other places, our minds are not as sophisticated as we might want to think they are.
Oh, come on with it. Tell them about it, Doc. Come on. You tell the truth here.
We're going to talk about what we remember. And look, it's to the point when election season comes and the mail comes through my mail slot.
Oh, my God.
First thing I do is to sort out. And because I researched the people who I vote for, and I don't care about the glossy campaign literature that they put in my door. I may look at it if I see a perspective that doesn't seem like it's just you talking about you, but let me hear what some of your constituents have to say.
Right.
And it's about connecting the dots. So our brains focus on, what do you hear the most? If I said plop, plop, fizz, fizz, what comes to mind?
Alka-Seltzer Plus.
So same
by
thing.
association.
If I hear the same name over, over and over and over again when I get, oh, yeah, I know that person. No, you don't know anything about them. You've just heard them, seen their billboards, their lawn signs. And so you think, oh,
Oh,
well,
that's
popular. That's who I'm going to vote for.
because I know how many. But see, I don't think you're right because I know a lot of people who haven't met her, but they know Beyonce personally. They are part of the Beehive, and you will not talk about her because that's their friend.
You don't have to meet them personally. You just need to have your brain continually receive that stimuli.
Exactly.
Says, oh, yes, I like that person. Yes, they're a good person. What do you know about them?
I remember, actually, it's so funny. I remember when what is and it actually got me into the study of like human decision making and things like that. And one of my friends, she was a great lobbyist against state sponsored executions and stuff like that. And when Barack Obama was elected, she's like, it's going to be really great to have a president who is going to stop state. I was like, when did he say that? And she was like, he said that in a speech. I was like, no, what he said was that he personally does not believe and does not agree with, but it is a states' rights issue, but he would hope that they wouldn't. And she was like, are you sure? I'm like, yo, we watch this together. But that's what happens is because you start getting these associations with him because, oh, he must believe everything I believe, and he's going to save us. Barack Obama is going to make all black. And it's like, and so we have is that we ascribe to elected officials this idea. Once we know them and we feel we know them, they're going to help. I'm going to call my my person. They're like, hey, Helen, let me tell you, I saw you in the grocery store a few days ago. Let me tell you what the trash people are not doing. Can you call them right now? It's like, I'm sorry, your name is what?
So I love what you're saying. Case in point, I do not refer to the Affordable Care Act as Obamacare. It is the Affordable Care Act that was introduced by President Barack Obama. But if you study the history, the Affordable Care Act had been going on for many years.
Yeah, it started with Clinton.
And it actually started before Clinton.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, it started before Clinton. And so it's been iterations through the years that got us to a point at looking at present day, who was impacted, who was in it, who was out of it. And at the end of the day, the greatest wealth any individual has is their health. For without good health, the ability to function, operate, be present in society, what are you going to be able to do?
Exactly. Oh, this is a good point. Juanita agrees with you about the psychology impacts your vote. Like one of the things that when I do on my business consulting side, one of the things that I introduce a lot of entrepreneurs to is even the ones that have been in the game for a while. They may know it intuitively, but the concept of psychometrics or psychographics. And one of the things that I tried to, and they're like, well, why aren't people talking about this? I was like, because most of the people who study this work for people who don't want you to know how it works. They don't publish this stuff. Why do I want you to know how?
Wait. They don't publish it, but the information is out there.
Absolutely. And so that becomes,
I tell anyone, and I do trainings around how to be your own advocate, and the types of things that you need to do to be an informed consumer of what today we live in a climate that people are running for office without ever having done the work to understand what does it mean to be the representative of the people. It is not your platform to
come on.
It's your platform.
You know what? You're gonna give you. I'm sorry. You're gonna get the whole screen right now.
It is about servant leadership, and as a representative, it was not about Helen's opinions. Yes, Helen's opinions were used out of the knowledge and education and information to share with the people. But at the end of the day, my role was to put forth the positions of citizens that reached out and said, oftentimes I would reach out and say, I need to hear from you. I'd go to community meetings. Yes, I took the beatings for issues that they didn't want to hear. I always worked to bring a broader perspective. So let's talk about the red line. There were two representatives at the local.
You said redlining or red line?
The red line.
Oh, the train. Yeah.
There were only two representatives in local state, and federal government for Baltimore City that opposed the red line. That was me and then Delegate Bill Ferguson.
Okay.
My opposition was that on the west side of town,
Mm-hmm.
what they wanted to do to take people's property, to put a 2-lane track down the middle of Edmondson Avenue,
Yeah, I
yet
remember that.
tunneling under more affluent neighborhoods, and then come above ground as you're
And
pushing downtown. Well, I might do it just the opposite. Don't disturb where people live. And when we had that 52-inch snowstorm and
mm,
Edmondson Avenue,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
all I could think was, this is what the red line will do going down the middle of Edmondson Avenue. It will gridlock to help people from outside of Baltimore City move through Baltimore City and
Yeah.
see the less affluent parts of Baltimore City,
Yes.
and then go underground when you're downtown, because we don't want to disturb that. We don't want
Right.
to disturb the high rent district, and then come back above ground in less affluent neighborhoods again.
Yes.
It should have been the reverse. Don't disturb where
Yes.
people live. Let people who are
But
outside of see all. This is why you should come to Baltimore and get off
no,
the train.
that's not what. But
Here
that's
and
you're
there.
assuming that they actually care about the people first. Let's
Well,
be
this
honest.
goes
That
back to the number one constituent that too many lawmakers are beholden to, are the
Agree.
green constituents.
Yeah.
Okay, the
Yeah.
people who finance their campaigns, their interests, to allow them. This goes back to campaign finance reform.
Yep.
If you cap the money that you can raise to run for office, guess what's happening? You got to get out there and do the hard work. I
And
walked many a neighborhood, streets,
yes,
alleys, whatever, to understand, what is it? People don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
that is absolutely a true statement. One of the other parts too is that there's this new move by elected officials, which I don't get. And for me, people who don't debate, or people who don't come out or try to limit questions when they are running for office and things like that, it's like, no. Your job is to you are my agent. And if I can't trust your emotional wherewithal, to your point before, you took the role to serve the people that you work for.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, actually, I don't even think, if you look at the entire congressional or executive level GOP, it is more important to keep your job. Because
Right.
they give Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger a lot of props, but no, that is tactically superior. When you can see that the whole party is going to unravel, you jump on the other side. But what I am concerned about is that this might be a baptism for them. That they emerge from the waters, since they have repudiated Trump. They emerge from the waters as saints in the realm of, and it's like, no, they are still demons. We just happen to have a common enemy today.
So here's a perspective for you. On January 6, 2021, Mitch McConnell stood on the floor of the Senate and said this was an insurrection. This was an act of violence. And then he went silent on it when the far-right conservatives were taking a stance in support of the insurrection.
Yeah.
Well, guess who's coming back to that place of January 6th was an insurrection, and speaking out against the RNC censoring Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. How do you explain that other than?
Oh, I can explain it. Okay, I know. It's tactically superior. If I was giving somebody some communication structures, this is exactly what I would do. I say, okay, because we need to balance. Because again, if we assume that his interests aren't just people, watch this. You can keep your colleagues happy and your donors happy by letting all this randomness come out, but you can always say, well, I've always said this, and you don't have to intervene. So you get the best of both worlds. You get to be like, well, the party's crazy, so all that money that comes in from crazy people, you get a little piece of that. And for the more reasonable people in your party, it's like, well, I've never been with them. I just don't stop them.
I want to bring up the notion of what's come to mind lately, and that is ethical leadership.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because we need to talk about this in the context of the difference between ethics for Black women and the ethics of Black men and the ethics for white people. Just people.
Okay, look.
Because hey, you waited till the last 10 minutes to do it. You got me right. I got most of my coffee in me right now. You got me all energized. I might just tell Donnie we doing a tracking hour because I'm feeling a little reckless right now. Feeling a little reckless. You got me triggered.
You know, leadership requires making tough decisions.
Amen.
And taking a stand that is in alignment with the trust placed upon you by the citizens that have helped you get elected.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying there seems to be, when I look at what's happening on the national level, at the state level, it just calls to think.
Yeah.
To really think, where's truth?
Not there.
Where does truth live? Fairness, inclusiveness, a sense of belonging.
But here's the thing. I think part of the issue is that people don't actually want that. We have been conditioned so much in the consumerism that we want what makes us feel good. And we've been conditioned to live lives, no matter who we are, lives where we don't like shit. We don't like ourselves. We like, oh my God, I hate going to work. Oh my God. We live lives like that all the time. How many times have you, okay, I'm not going to ask you about your personal business, but how many times have we sat outside? I've sat outside the house. I know. I'm just sitting there like, oh my God. Like I leave work, sit in the car at work for a little while to decompress from that. Then I get home and then got to get myself ramped up to walk in the house because there are people who are expecting stuff of me. Mm-hmm. And so I got 15 minutes in the car. I'm sorry. I should have let you know that sometimes this show is part of my therapeutic thing. I take clips and give them to my therapist so he could be like, oh yeah, we could talk about that.
So I want to go back to the story you told of when you were growing up and it was easier to tell the lie and instead of so that you wouldn't get in trouble. Here's what I know. When you tell a lie, you have to keep up with the lies that you tell.
Yes.
The truth is the truth is the truth.
Yes.
It doesn't change. So if you know you did wrong or that you did something that's going to cause you consequences, you made that choice when you decided to do it.
Yes. But let's deal with the regular people part of this. I'm
talking about the regular
people. No, but the regular people part of it, you're absolutely right. But the regular people part of it is that I didn't think I was going to get caught. Hello. So I had a contingency in it. And the other part that I think a lot of people don't realize, there are some of us who live such complete lies that is not difficult. Keeping up with the lies is not difficult because it is all we do.
I assure you this. If you tell the truth, your memory is going to remember the truth because it parallels the actions and the activities.
Actually, that's not true because what ends up happening, the research suggests, because the same thing you were just talking about before, if you know something happened and I keep telling you a story about it, eventually, especially if there's a power dynamic.
But that's not your story. You're hearing
understand, but I can influence the thoughts that you have. And so we talk about it all the time, how people's memories are, hell, I've had conversations that never actually happened. And this is also one of the reasons I'm not married anymore, because I was like, well, remember you said this? And she was like, that never happened. I was like, yes, it did, because this person was here and that person was here. And then she was like, call them. And I was like, hey, yo, you remember that time? And they were like, nah, dude, that never happened. I was like, what? What happened?
But that's the story you chose to tell yourself.
Exactly. But that's my point. That story was in my head. And again, it may just be my mental health stuff going on. Hey, we have a whole other show about that. But it was a story that's in my head. And that was part of my reality. I was engaging her from a story. I was in a world that she was not in. Because, and what I realized is that I heard what she said, but my feelings rearranged the intonations and things like that. And it became something different. And so I think a lot of the times we have these disconnects with people. Like when I tell my clients, it's like, well, I've given the best price and the best offer. And I was like, well, if you've given everything that makes logical sense and they're not doing it, then let's stop trying to be logical. Mm-hmm. Because there clearly is not, you're not dealing with the same set of facts they are. Now, if you want to sell them something, you need to jump into their make pretend. It might be a little crazy in there, but that's from the place that they make decisions from. The problem is, like, and while I despise him at a genetic level, like at a quantum field, I despise everything that is and has ever been and will be Donald Trump. But he is an exemplar of the worst possible outcomes of capitalism.
Well, he is an antagonist. He's a bully, is what he is. He's a bully. He's a narcissist.
Oh, absolutely. No. I think he's far beyond narcissism. I think he's like, I really do think it's like borderline disorder or sociopathy. Like,
wait, narcissist. I didn't say he was psychologically.
Clinical. Gotcha.
Okay, I didn't say he was psychologically sound. My goodness, Mary Trump. Mary Trump, his niece,
yes,
who has known him all her life, who is a psychologist, will tell you,
yes, he has narcissistic tendencies.
Been given he doesn't care about what happens to American citizens.
He doesn't care about what happens to anybody else.
Right. You're right. Anybody else.
Except Ivanka.
What happens to his own children.
Except Ivanka. Except Ivanka. For some reason, well, actually, I have a couple of ideas why he's so connected to her.
If Ivanka were not his daughter, she'd probably be his wife. Yeah.
No, she would have been a mistress. He wouldn't have wifed her.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
But the point being, you're right. When you open up the avenue for lies to become the truths, you end up where we are today. And how do you sort through the noise to get to a place to understand what does it take for us to move forward as a nation?
I think you jumped on it earlier, is that you start with figuring out about the stuff in your life. Yeah, and I love the fact that you gave that really little step. Just find out who represents you. Before you go out and ask anybody else, find out, because guess what? You may not even know how to do it. And one of the things that I did is that when I worked at a Department of Legislative Services, I would go out and utilize the website from not the intranet, but the internet. Mm-hmm. And I would try to use it like regular people would use it. It was like, this is not easy to use. Like, why is it so much easier on the inside? And because I was doing that kind of external work, I was able to make suggestions on how to improve our engagement. So one of the things you can do is just start with you. How do you figure out who is your elected official? And if you got a problem figuring out, come on back to the show, and or you can contact.
Wait, I'm gonna get it real. You don't know. Hey, let's pull out your smartphone.
Google. No, I was going to say they could Google Dr. Helen Holton and she could help you out with that, okay? Because we at the part of the show, you need to sell something. I'm going to tell you that now. You at the part of the show, you need to have somebody go to a website and invent or something, because I want to make sure it's perfect.
So I will tell you this. I'm about to go live on LinkedIn.
Woo! Congratulations,
I have a show now. It's called Dr. Helen Speaks. Strength, Resilience, and Leadership. It's on a platform created by women for women to reach the 3.9 billion women across the planet.
Sweet.
And what we talk about are things that pertain to anybody, everybody. As former Senator Young used to say, Larry Young.
Yeah.
Call Lottie, Dottie, and everybody.
Everybody.
Information is really applicable to anybody, but it's targeted towards women. LinkedIn Live will be a little different. It'll still be called Dr. Helen Speaks. And it's about leadership. It's about resilience. It's about those and knowing who you are through the best of who you are, and having conversations with guests to talk about what does it take to heal our land. And it's not an easy process.
No.
It probably won't happen in my lifetime or yours.
Yeah.
But the process must begin.
Absolutely.
And it begins with individuals. It's like Margaret Mead used to say, a small group of people has always been the force that has been the impetus for major changes in our nation.
Absolutely.
And so you can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Helen Holton. If you want to know where my show is, every week you can go to winwinwomen.com. winwinwomen.com. And my show is Dr. Helen Speaks.
Hmm.
Strengths, Resilience, and Leadership. It comes on every Tuesday
Hmm.
live now when you go to the platform to look for it, all the shows are in Pacific time. So
Okay.
it's 10 a.m. Pacific
Gotcha.
time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. If
Gotcha.
you're here on the East Coast, 1 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesdays, every
Okay.
Tuesday. And
Sweet.
we talk about this month, we're talking about how are you loving you? And what
Mm.
prompted that was um, Miss Black USA 2019,
Mm. Hmm.
30-year-old beautiful Black woman, inside and out, on
Incredibly
top of the
accomplished.
world, that took her life.
Yeah,
And it deals with those things under the surface that we don't see or realize are there.
that's
And
awesome.
this is Love Month, and we're talking about how are you loving you? And you can catch the replays of shows by going to my channel there on winwinwomen.com.
There you go.
More to come.
More to come. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of
And you
all
can also
ages.
catch my
Oh,
show on Roku TV.
oh, you on Roku? Go ahead with your bad self. All right, I'm trying to be like you when I grow up.
Me too.
Thank you very much, Dr. Holton. I'm looking forward to the next time we have an opportunity to chat with you.
Thank you. It's a joy and a pleasure to be here and have this rich conversation.
All right, you have a great day.
You also.
All right, bye. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we end another show on a high note. It was a great conversation about the intersection of all of those things, about what it is to be Black and how we can advocate. Make sure you start with your own. Figure out who represents you and what they believe in and what they've done for you. I think you can't get better advice than that. Well, this is William Honolulu, host of BlackUSA.news morning show. We will see you tomorrow when we have the opportunity to talk to Nikki Murphy. Jesus. We have an opportunity to talk to Nicole Murphy. You all don't call her Nikki. Of I Barter Black, a way to help Black entrepreneurs get the things they need to be successful and keep it pushing. All right, I'll be Black tomorrow.